Stan Gibilisco here with a little discussion about mobile radio equipment, in particular ham radios and citizens band radios that you can install in your vehicle. This material is covered quite extensively in my book, Making Everyday Electronics Work, published by McGraw-Hill in the summer of 2013. You will find this material in Chapter 5, Electronics in Your Vehicle, starting on page 140, two-way radios. So let's cut right to the chase. There is a picture of my two-way radio system. The one on the top is a ham radio, amateur radio transceiver, capable of putting out up to 50 watts on the 144 to 148 megahertz band. The radio that you see underneath is a citizens band radio. Works on a band called 11 meters at about 27 megahertz. Puts out 4 watts. I don't use these two radios at the same time, obviously, and there is a very important cautionary note that I would like to make here about these radios. Increasingly, various states in the United States have begun to introduce legislation that restricts the use of these radios while a vehicle is in motion. You would have to check the laws in your state to be sure exactly what they say. I use these radios only for the purpose of emergency communications, and in that vein, I would never use them when the vehicle is in motion. They are a distraction. Operating radios like this, you have to look down at the controls. Increasingly, ham radios like the one on top are microprocessor controlled or microcomputer controlled, and you have to program them in order to make them work. And there's a menu involved in the operation of many of these things, and that can be extremely distracting, almost as bad as texting while driving, which, as you may have heard, has given rise to quite a furor in recent months, this being August, the last day of August 2013 that I'm making this video. There was a case in New Jersey where someone who sent a text to someone who was driving was deemed liable for, or might have been deemed liable for, an accident that took place. So my caution to you is just don't use these radios while you're moving if you think it's going to distract you, and check the laws. And if you're driving across the country, unfortunately now you have to know the laws of every single jurisdiction that you're in order to fully comply. I guess the bottom line here, though, is not whether you're complying with the law, but whether or not you want to get into an accident. So you could create the very type of emergency that you would use these radios to get yourself out of by using them while the vehicle is in motion. So with all of that cautionary note, I have these radios here, and of course I can pull over to the side of the road and tune them to a particular frequency and listen. There's no law against listening to the radio while you're driving, but you have to be careful about transmitting. But I have found the ham radio to be useful in some circumstances. You can communicate, you can just talk to people as long as you're not moving. The citizens band, I just haven't found that of any use. There's either skip coming in, coming over the long distances, and a bunch of freebanders and other illegal operators just talking in jargon that I can't understand. I wish I could. It'd be fun to talk to them, but 4 watts I'd never be able to talk to them. And so I have found that citizens band radio for the purpose of emergency communication would probably be virtually useless. But in any case, it's there, and it looks kind of neat sitting under my dashboard like that. Here's what I use to provide them with power, and these are not necessarily recommended, but they plug into the cigarette lighter. Remember those things when people used to smoke while driving? I wonder whether it's illegal to even smoke at all anymore. I mean, pretty soon it's going to be illegal to smoke at all. I don't smoke, but I do use these to plug into the cigarette lighter to get the power for the radios, and they're okay to use as long as you don't have a high-powered transmitter. If you have a high-powered transmitter, you might have trouble getting enough current through these to run that transmitter properly. And also the high-power radio frequency signals can get onto these wires and mess up your vehicle's electronics. In the case of, for example, if you had a higher-powered ham radio, 100 watts or something like that, you would probably want to wire it directly to the vehicle's battery. But these things are convenient. You can get them at Radio Shack stores, and they plug right into that cigarette lighter and provide you with at least enough power to listen to the radio and make low-power transmissions. Okay. Finally, you need an antenna. And the most common type of antenna uses what they call a mag mount, a magnetic mount. You stick it right onto the top of your vehicle, in this case the roof of my truck, my bright red truck, old number 7. It really isn't quite that bright of a red. It's more of a maroon red, but for some reason it shows up real bright in this picture. Anyway, this thing is about 6 inches in diameter. It's a very strong magnet. This thing right here, about 6 inches. How many centimeters is that? You tell me. Maybe 15 centimeters, something like that. And then it goes to a little, in this case, this antenna that's screwed into the base of it is a 3-foot long inductively loaded antenna for Citizens Band. These things will withstand quite a high wind if you don't use too big of an antenna, but there's a limit to how much they will withstand, and driving 75 miles an hour on the freeways here in South Dakota, Wyoming, I have had this thing pop off of even with just a 3-foot CB whip on there, inductively loaded whip. I've had this mag mount pop off of here. And then it's kind of unnerving to have that thing dragging behind your vehicle. It might also endanger the radio because of electrostatic buildup that could occur if it drags on the pavement. So you really want to make certain that this thing will withstand the wind gusts that might come along. If you're driving 75 miles an hour west in Wyoming and it's a windy day and the wind is gusting to 60 miles an hour from the west, you do the math. You're getting a hurricane force blast at your vehicle to begin with, sustained at 75 miles an hour with gusts, possibly upwards of 120, 130, 140 mile an hour. That thing's going to pop off of there. And so you really have to be wary of these mag mounts. You can mount them in your vehicle by getting more permanent mounts, and if you do a lot of operation with a mobile radio, I would strongly urge that you do that. I just don't use it much, and as I've said, I would not use it while the vehicle is in motion anyway, so I keep these antennas in the vehicle and can just stick them out there if I ever, for example, break down in the middle of Wyoming somewhere where there might not even be cell phone coverage, somewhere up in Montana. I like to travel in those parts of the country in November, January, February, when nobody else goes. Wide open space, nobody but me. That's an advantage until you break down with your vehicle. I've never had it happen yet, but there's a first time for everything, isn't it? So, with that, I will conclude this little discussion of mobile radios and how their antennas work, how they're plugins work to the power system and everything. With that cautionary note, check the laws where you are, and moreover, don't drive and blabber on the radio. That's my advice to you. Don't do it. I mean, it's fun to do, but don't. It's just, take a trip into one of the emergency wards in a hospital where car accident victims have come in and see whether or not it's worth taking that risk. That maybe I'm just an old fuddy-duddy, though. In my old conservative age, you would think, that young people would be more concerned than old people about getting into an accident because they have more to lose in terms of their health. But not so. Making everyday electronics work. I don't harp on that issue too much in this book. I don't want to spoil your fun. I just want to help you make everyday electronics work. And I hope this book will help you do that. Stan Gibilisco signing off from the Black Hills of Dakota Territory, United States of America. Until next time, so long.